Welcome to this talk on fees and funding. My name is Gary Brown. I'm the a financial accountant within the tuition fees team within the Student Finance Office at the university. And I'll be talking to you briefly this morning about fees and how to fund them. I think typically whenever people consider the fees, university fees and funding, they are asking two questions. First question they're asking is, how much do courses cost? And secondly, and probably more relevant, more important, is how do I pay my tuition fees? And we will cover both these questions. First one we can do fairly briefly, and that's how much do courses cost? Looking at sort of our full-time undergraduate fees for the upcoming undergraduate year will give you some indication as to the magnitude of the fees. For students from Northern Ireland, the fees for each year of study are typically $4,395 for this academic year. For England, Scotland and Wales, the fees are $9,250. For the Republic of Ireland and other non-UK EU countries, the fees are currently $4,395. The only caveat we would put there, and it's quite a big caveat, is that the level of fees for EU students is obviously highly dependent on the ongoing Brexit negotiations. The fees for the academic year for EU students for 21-22 haven't been set yet and will not be set until the outcome of the Brexit negotiations are finalised. And the fourth category then are students from the islands, which are the Isle of Man, Jersey, and their fees are typically $9,250. And I would stress that fees are for each year of study. So for a typical undergraduate, the duration of the course is 3-4 years. For each of those years, you will incur those fees. Now, having set those fees, how do we pay them? Fees are typically paid from two sources, self-funded or externally funded. Self-funded is self-explanatory. You're either funding your own studies or you're relying on financial help from family and friends, typically parents. For externally funded students, the funding comes from either a tuition fee loan or funding from external sponsor. We'll look at each of these areas in a bit more detail. So if you look at the self-funded payment options, sort of touching on basically for the payment methods first, you can pay by credit card, debit card, using the CUSIS system, the Student Information System. Every student has a CUSIS account, and fees can be made by credit card or payment debit card through that system. The university has also introduced a bank transfer system this year using an organization called Flywire, which allows you to pay by bank transfer. But probably looking at the third option, which might be of more interest, the only installment plan for the payment of fees that the university operates is this direct debit installment plan, whereby students pay 25% at their registration, and at that stage then they sign up for an installment plan by direct debit. And then a further 25% of fees are collected at the end of November, at the end of January, and at the end of March. You still end up paying the same amount of fees, but the payment is spread throughout the academic year. I must stress that is you have to sign up for a direct debit from a UK bank account. Externally funded payment options really cover two areas: the tuition fee student loan and funding from an external sponsor. The tuition fee student loan is the means by which the vast majority of NIGB students pay their tuition fees. We'll go into that in a bit more detail. And similarly, funding from an external sponsor, there are a limited number of opportunities for fees to be paid by an external sponsor. So looking at the tuition fee student loans. Students are eligible, NI students, GB and EU students are eligible, or any eligible student from the NI, GB and EU can borrow the full cost of their tuition fee from the government in the form of a tuition fee loan, a student loan. The loan for tuition fees is not means tested and is available to all eligible students. Students apply online for a tuition fee loan and also for maintenance loan, maintenance grant, and various other grants that may be available. The relevant organisations for each of the jurisdictions are Student Finance NI, Student Finance England, Student Finance Wales, and Student Finance Scotland, or SAS as it's more appropriately referred to. Tuition fee loan, if we look at sort of the arrangements for Northern Ireland students, but they are pretty much the same for students from the other countries within the UK. All the relevant information is available from the web link at the top of the page there, www.studentfinanceni.co.uk. If you Google Student Finance NI, it'll take you to the relevant website, and there's a whole myriad of information there. There's a lot more than I will be able to cover this morning, and we would advise you to get on there for both students and parents. Go onto the website as early as possible, and it has all the relevant information there available. If we're looking at Northern Ireland students, just in terms of who would qualify as a Northern Ireland student, it's a UK or Republic of Ireland national who has been normally living in Northern Ireland for 3 years before the start of the course. And indeed, that is the sort of the general criteria for establishing residency for funding and for admissions within the university. So it's 3 years. It's where you've lived normally resident for 3 years before the first day of your course. And students make the online application at the website address. There's one application, and you apply for your tuition fee loan, your maintenance loan and grant, and various other grants. There are other grants for students with disability or childcare, or even indeed some travel grants, but all details of all the maintenance loan and grants are on the website. Tuition fee loan obviously is there to pay for your tuition fees. That's paid directly to the university. Maintenance loan and grants are to cover for your sort of living expenses, and there are various other specific grants there. Tuition fee loan isn't means tested. It's available to all eligible students. Maintenance loan and grants are means tested, but there is a minimum maintenance loan available to all students. But again, go onto the website and they'll give you full details. The website online applications typically open sort of 6, possibly 8 months before the start of the academic year. There's no fixed start date. It has opened in February in the past. Or it can be sort of April before it opens, and that's the February or the April before the start of the academic year for which you plan to attend Queen's. So for students who looking to sort of start Queen's in September 2021, the website will be typically open sort of around February to April 2021. And we would again advise students to get on as early as they can and get their finance organised as soon as possible. You don't need to have a firm academic offer before you make the application. You make the application, get the funding approved, and then once you know your course, it can be applied to that course. The website will give us sort of a soft deadline, typically sort of towards the end of April, where the applications must be submitted, but it's a soft deadline. It's only indicative what they say is that unless you make an application before that deadline, they cannot guarantee you that your funding will be available and issued before the start of the academic year. The absolute final deadline for applications is 9 months after the first day of the academic year. So you can make an application for a student loan, get student tuition fee funding up until 9 months after the start of the academic year. It's maybe applicable for students where financial circumstances change in the academic year, but there still is an opportunity there to avail of tuition fee finance. The loans are loans. A loan is repayable, and it also continues to accrue interest from the day that they are paid out. Details of the interest rates are, again, on the Student Finance NI and the other student finance websites. And the students accrue, the loans build up and accumulate throughout the student's academic career, and then they're all combined. When the student graduates, they have a level of debt then, and that debt is then repayable. And repayments begin in the April following graduation. But only once the student earns more than 19,390, as is. That limit increases annually, but at the current academic year, it's when students start earning over 19,390 in the April following graduation. It's 19,390 per annum in the April following graduation. They start to repay the loan, and repayments are 9% of their earnings over that amount. There are, as I say, a limited number of opportunities for funding from external sponsors. There are various private and government organisations that will sponsor students through university. It's typically these schools, both the student's current school and the university schools, the departments within the university, will promote opportunities where there is a chance of funding by an external sponsor. Students apply, and there's obviously a selection process. But it's certainly something worth exploring, and it's the school career offices and the university departments will sort of highlight any opportunities. At the start of the academic year, students must provide a letter from the sponsor on official headed note paper, giving contact details for the sponsor and the amount of the sponsor. The university then issues an invoice to the sponsor, and the sponsor pays the invoice, and that's the tuition fees paid. However, I would just advise that students ultimately remain responsible for their tuition fees. If a sponsor is invoiced, and subsequently doesn't pay the invoice, then the tuition fee debt will revert back to the student, and the student becomes liable for the tuition fees. Just to point you then for some further information, Queen's website. If you go onto the Queen's website on the study section, fees and finance, pay tuition fees, it'll give you pretty much all the information in this presentation and a lot more. If you have any specific queries, please feel free to email us at studentfinance@qub.ac.uk. We are also holding a number of live chats with student finance office staff over the three days of the open days at the university. Please feel free to avail of that, and we'll be more than happy to answer your queries. And again, going back to the Student Finance NI web link, it's there at www.studentfinanceni.co.uk, and there are similar web addresses for GB and for EU. Hopefully that's given you an introduction to the sort of the fees and finance. The information is there, and please feel free to contact us. We would be more than happy to speak to you and hopefully address your queries. I would just, all it does now is for me to sort of wish you all the best in as you apply for places in the university, and just best wishes. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this presentation. I hope it's been helpful. Thank you.